All right, everybody, it's time for the speed debates. Thank you for hanging out a little bit later in the afternoon. I'm sure alcoholic beverages helped inspire your patience. Check. Nice. Manico's in the house, if you hadn't noticed. So quick little bit about what this is going to be, what the speed debates are, how they work. I have 6 topics in these wonderful 3x5, you don't have to restart them, cards in my hand. And we have used the ultimate source of entropy, i.e. my children, to divide our experts into 2 different groups. We have Mono Paul here, Peter Perfetti, Jim Manico, Wendy Nather, Robert Hansen, a.k.a. R-Snake, and H.D. Moore. A.k.a. yes. H.D. Moore and Josh Corman in a very small and invisible sort of way. The way this works is I will propose a position statement. One team will have the affirmative, the other team will have the negative, and we will go team by team taking turns. Each team member gets just 1 minute to explain why they are either for or against the position I'm going to announce, okay? And it'll be each team member. We go back and forth. Didn't know what we did last time? I don't remember. Oh, you're gonna pick a team? Okay, and then a rebuttal person? Let's do that, that's fine. Like, the rules are made up like right now by me, so this is good. You think I remember last year? I don't remember yesterday. Okay, so then each team will pick that's right, that's what we did. Each team picks an appropriate and then a rebuttal for 2 minutes, right? Okay, cool, perfect. 2 minute for the position and then a 1 minute rebuttal. You will be arguing for this point I'm about to mention, and you will be in the negative for this point. I love my kids' irony. Analyst reports are fundamental to optimally using your security spend. Dang it, my kids' entropy is awesome. Okay, team A. Team A, we need a positive. Who's gonna run with it? The position is analyst reports are fundamental to optimally using your security spend. Team A has 2 minutes to argue this point.
Can someone get me some liquor, please?
Yes. Liquor is en route. Come on.
There is no other way to justify my position other than to provide you with endless amounts of information. Many people here are into data mining. The information is there. Look it up. That way I can guarantee you I've been very, very thorough.
That's a little short of 2 minutes.
I'm sorry. I didn't have a bigger speech prepared, but Mono said he would help me out with this.
I think Manico will jump in.
Look, the reality is, whether you like analyst reports or not, that many CISOs, CEOs, and other decision makers who may not be as technical as a lot of us in the room lean on these reports to get sound advice on how to spend money. So we can debate analysts, we can say it's pay for play, we can say it's research. There's a lot of different positions that people have in this industry about the value of analyst reports. And we can critique it and pen test that all we want. But the reality is, if you're a C-level of a major multinational corporation and you have money to spend and you don't have maybe the technical background to make the decisions on your own, what do? You go read analyst reports. You read 451, you read Gartner, you read Forrester, and these analyst firms really drive the heart of spending. And this is whether we like it or not. So as security professionals, when we have a chance to influence these analysts to help them make better decisions around what they write about and what C's read, we do have to care about this. So that's my...
Nice conclusion.
I can actually live with that answer, so...
Okay. Now you guys need to figure out who's going to rebut. Wendy! Who may or may not be an analyst.
Because analysts are not technical. They have no idea what they're doing. Analysts are absolutely dispensable. You can go your whole life happily without ever seeing a magic quadrant. You can go happily your whole life without seeing a wave. The truth of the matter is that analysts put their pants on 2 legs at a time, just like everybody else. They usually come from a failed career as an actual technical person. They're bitter, they're confused, and somebody will pay them to write about this bitterness and confusion all day. And also to drink at conferences. They pay to drink at conferences. So yes, you can absolutely skip all of the analyst reports.
So Wendy, I understand where you're coming from, but the reality, analysts may put their pants on like everyone else, but they at least know what the front and back is. So again, the truth here is that even those of us who are very technical security professionals in the know, how many of you have time to analyze and talk to and discuss what 300 different vendors are doing in our space? Very few of us have that capability of time, where analysts, that's what they do. They are usually folks who come from a strong technical background and a strong writing background. They have the contextual ability and the technical ability to ask the right questions. And what they're doing 24/7 is they are communicating with different vendors to ask about what they're doing. And they build reports on this based on what their opinions are of what research they've done. Is this a perfect process? No, it's not. But this is a process that really drives the heart of our industry, especially among enterprise companies who have lots of money and lots of procurement decisions to make. So again, whether we like this process or not, we have got to, these reports make a difference. They drive purchasing for a lot of companies. It's our responsibility as security analysts to do our best to help inform different analysts about what they write about and what decisions they're making in terms of what we see in these reports.
Okay, Team B rebuttal.
Unfortunately, analysts try to take 300 different vendors and normalize them, so they somehow make an apples-to-apples comparison. Unfortunately, these vendors don't compare in the first place. I remember walking into the building of a large analyst firm, and they just put someone else in charge of pen testing as a category. So we're discussing kind of what Metasploit does and what we do in the pen testing field, and he kind of went back like, what do you mean? Like, well, that's what it does. We do network testing, authentication testing, passwords, vulnerabilities, exploits, shellcode, all that fun stuff. It's like, but I thought pen testing is just web apps.
I'm going to break the rules and say one more thing. Let me give you an example of your average analyst. You ready? So, as a former practitioner, I'm interested in the process of security, said Nather. Why CISOs buy security technology, how they use it, and how organizational differences make it work or fail. Now, this is key. Prior to her role at the Texas Education Agency, Nather worked in the investment banking division of the Swiss Bank Corporation, now UBS. In various positions, she helped to build Europe's then largest private trading floor, based in Chicago, Zurich, and London. She also served as the first IT security director of the EMA region. So these analysts are not just people off the street. They've done heavy-duty security work, and it gives them the background to really do proper analysis of these products. So you're all wrong. These reports do matter. Thank you very much. Yeah!
Jim, I can't believe you fell for that bio.
Hey, I know.
I listen to marketing crap all day for a living.
Wait, everything I read on the internet isn't right? Okay, our highly scientific method of voting, our detailed and very intricate iPhone app, wink wink, otherwise known as Jarrett Rame, will find out who, well, you can't see this, you have to look that way, you have to be unbiased. To keep this unbiased, I'm going to point in a direction of one of the two teams. Please clap for the team you think won. So do you believe? Crap.
Oh no. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
We're in Austin, it's cool. All right. Who believes that this team won the debate? Clap now. Who believes that this team won the debate? Clap now. Jarrett, our highly scientific. It's Team A.
So I live to write another day.
For you. Can they clap for themselves?
Hey, they'll take all the help they can get, man. Ouch. Okay, round 2. In round 2, you will be arguing, your team will be arguing in the positive. You will be arguing in the negative. The position statement is, in the new world of DevOps and configuration management, if layer 8, i.e. a human, warm, fleshy being, touches the server, i.e. logs into it, you should consider it compromised, period. If you're doing it right, you never actually log into a server. You have Ansible, Puppet, Chef, Salt, whatever, do that for you. So, in this new world of DevOps and configuration management, if a layer 8 being gets on the server, consider it compromised. Chuck it away, fire up a new one. Okay, that is your position positive, your position negative. Who's going to go first?
All right. So yeah, I've actually heard a number of people believe that you can have such a thing as a hardened operating system, and I think that's probably true when it comes out of the box. When you first get it, day one, like when it's still in the plastic and everything, assuming it didn't come from China or the NSA, it's probably good to go. The second you actually turn it on, the second you actually install the thing and it starts making outbound calls to the internet, it starts pulling in patches, it starts requesting stuff from GitHub and all this crazy stuff for all these packages and all these sort of sub-dependencies and so on. It's making calls over the internet, BGP, TCP/IP, all this stuff that's potentially all vulnerable to various different things depending on what we're talking about, man-in-the-middle attacks and whatever. That person, just by turning the button, just by turning on, logging into it the very first time, has changed, depending on what operating system we're talking about, Windows, like I think it's 100,000 files or something on the first boot or something that it modifies, first time. There's really no way to know what's going on that server once you have hooked it up to the internet. The very first time that thing is on the internet and you've logged in, it's basically impossible to know what's on that computer at that point. There's no way to sort of baseline it and make sure that it's 100% guaranteed free of any future vulnerabilities from what that original baseline was.
So go to 3x5 cards?
Yeah. Chisel.
Sweet. Chisel.
Carry a pigeon.
Carry a pigeon. There's an RFC for that. Who's arguing in the negative?
Robert, you ignorant slut, you. You may think that there is pure agile or pure waterfall, or in this case, pure DevOps. That might be your world, but that's not the way the real world works. What most organizations do is they take DevOps.
So you agree with me then?
Let me finish, baby. So most organizations look at DevOps and they take elements of it that they want to implement in their own organization. And so one of the areas of DevOps, one of the tenets of DevOps is you never log into a server. You only let Puppet drive it for you. Now that might be nice in theory, but there's always exceptions to the rule in extreme circumstances where you want to let a trusted administrator with root access log into that device and handle some kind of tactical issue. So that's just the way the real world works. Do we want to minimize this? Of course we do. Do we want to make this not part of our standard process? Of course we do. But there's always an exception to the rule when you're in production, when you're trying to drive some kind of business need, when you have a situation under great duress where the quick fix is the way to go. Now, do you want to stop there? No, you want to go back to Puppet and fix it when time allows, but there's always going to be a tactical situation where the rules don't work and we have to go around it. That's just the way the real world works.
So I'll do the rebuttal real quick.
Your rebuttal?
So if you might have seen the news recently, a company lost $172,000 every 45 seconds every second for 45 minutes straight. They did this because they weren't using configuration management. They were trying to install a new update to their high-speed trading platform, and instead of doing it through configuration software like Puppet, they manually had an engineer log into 8 servers, one after another, going through and installing the update. Unfortunately, the very last server of this cluster, the update didn't take, the engineer didn't notice it in time, there wasn't air conditioning that he saw, and they kept on doing their business. Unfortunately, this caused this massive short sell operation to occur, which lost them, what was it, like $320 million in the course of the day? So what's that?
425.
$425 million, in which they got fined $12 million for doing so. And they're bankrupt and they're gone. So that's a pretty good case for automating your configuration deployments and updates.
Okay, we got a rebuttal?
Hey, Jim, 1993 called.
You DevOps shill.
Do we have a rebuttal?
Of course we do.
Well, then please.
I mean,
HD,
a good one.
Do any of your other teammates have a rebuttal?
I'm the spokesman for the team for this one.
Okay.
Hey, HD, you made a really good point there. There are situations where folks who are doing a direct access to a server and then not doing their due diligence after the fact, that could lead to significant harm. I agree with that 100%. Thanks. But, the reason we're in security is not for the sake of security. We are security professionals to enable some kind of business driver. That's why we're here. That's what pays our bills. That's what makes the world go round. There are going to be tactical situations where not just anybody, but the right guy in the room, the right administrator with the right level of privilege and professionalism and technical capability, where they're going to need to make a tactical move and update a server live to handle something that's hurting the business in some way. Now, should you stop there, HD? No, you shouldn't. You should then go back and fix your Puppet scripts, drop that server when you can, and go back to the proper processes. If you stop by just logging in root, making a fix, and that's where it ends, that's a problem. But I still think there are cases where allowing that to happen is acceptable to handle a business driver. It's not pretty. It could lead to major security events if you don't do your due diligence after the fact, but it's still a necessity in the real world where I live, and where James does not, obviously.
All right, it's time for the highly scientific voting. Now that I'm out of shadow and eye shot of Jarrett Rame, our illustrious high-tech timer, who believes that this side of the room, or that team that I'm pointing to now, won the debate? Clap now, please. And who believes this other side of the room that I'm pointing to now won the debate? Ooh. That's going to come down to the wire. Do we have a call official? Sure, it's an iPhone app, whatever. Team number one. Oh, team number one, that was the first team clap. Team number one. Sorry. Yeah. It's a highly scientific. Wow. Yes, we're going to change his name to Jarrett Cement Shoes Rame. Okay, you guys are now the positive, and you are now the negative. The next topic is post-Snowden. NIST and IST, right? Cipher suites cannot be trusted. Post-Snowden, NIST, the NIST approved blessed cipher suites cannot be trusted. You are arguing for, you are arguing against.
We're arguing that they should be trusted.
They yes, you can trust the NIST cipher suites, and you're arguing
You heard it
cannot
from the
trust.
man.
Yes, that's right. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Okay.
Come back, Jim. So NIST standards cannot be trusted. How many of you over here trust the standards that have been published by NIST? Enough said. That'll be like
folks?
2-line code for me to write that down. So you heard Nick Galbreath this morning speak about this as well, and he talked about the cipher standard, right? From 2007, it's been kind of insecure, and I think he said it is standard. Enough said again. Not a few words.
And take a look at Silent Circle. I mean, they recently dropped both NIST hashing and ASIC and symmetric crypto. They moved away from AES to Twofish, and they moved away from the SHA algorithm suite to, I believe, Whirlpool. So those who are building the most highly, supposedly secure software are already beginning the migration away from NIST standards. If we look at some of the largest security companies in the world, I don't want to mention any names, they are already going to all of their customers and saying abort a certain number of NIST standards and use different items in their products. Some are even dropping these standards from their products. Can we trust them? You know, and Bruce Schneider said, you know, he doesn't believe in this whole story. He believes in pure math. So, and math does help. It does. But
Math is fundamental.
But the reality is these algorithms are really difficult to prove in a standard mathematical theorem. It's a very unique branch of mathematics, which again is really difficult to prove. How do you prove if a crypto algorithm is secure? You put it out there to the world, and you have the world's best cryptographers analyze it and let time go by. There's no mathematical proof that we can just throw against it to see if it works. So we have to go on trust to some degree, with especially the elite of these algorithms, and especially at NIST. That trust is broken. Abort NIST standards. Thank you.
So I'd like to thank the first team for making my point. How many people here can write crypto that would survive as long as AES has so far? Let alone, who here would adopt an encryption algorithm that has been around less than that? In other words, we depend on crypto because it's in the public domain, because it has the most visibility, because everyone has the ability to analyze it, to find vulnerabilities, to expose it. The fact that the specific NIST standard, in this case was elliptic curve, PRNG, was theoretically tampered with, says a lot about how poor everyone else is at detecting the tampering. Because no one's been able to prove that it's tampered in a way that was weak. There may be one party, in this case, the NSA, that has the keys to it, but still, it hasn't been broken, not publicly. So if you're using the ECR, I forgot the actual term for it, but if you're using the particular elliptic curve, PRNG in this case, for your random number generator, you can protect against everybody but the NSA at this point. So the question is, who are you defending against, and how well has the crypto that you choose as an alternative been vetted? And I feel like at this point, the NIST standard algorithms really are the best we have because we can't do any better.
Rebuttal?
We can do better. And in terms of AES, it's called two fish. There's plenty of other choices that are at the top of the NIST selection choice around the time AES was chosen to be the standard for symmetric crypto. Hashing, we have the SHA family. Yes, we can do better. There are algorithms, again, like Whirlpool, that have also been peer-reviewed and analyzed by cryptographers that are very viable. Again, it really comes down to trust. And if you just look at what's happening in the world, look at what security professionals think, look at what real-world security companies are doing, it is time to abort NIST standards, unfortunately. Thank you.
Okay. Rebuttal?
Yeah, so that's that's an incredible amount of FUD, by the way.
Oh, this from the guy who says crypto doesn't matter anymore?
So I'm going to tell you
Should I get that email out?
why crypto doesn't matter anymore. If you actually look at what very large military organizations are doing, they're not breaking crypto as their primary attack mechanism at all. That is not what they're starting with. They start with normal stuff like botnets and and rubber hoses and like the traditional type of hacking into stuff that you'd expect, because it turns out it's a hell of a lot cheaper to do that. Any type of breaking crypto is significantly lower on the value of return on investment type stuff that you'd ever consider doing. So in terms of should you, which was the question, should you use NIST? Abso-freaking-lutely. You use every bit of crypto you possibly can that has been vetted as long as it has. If you're talking about, I have a nuclear bomb and I need to protect it, yeah, but you shouldn't probably be using any sort of that type of crypto. You should be using like one-time pads. You shouldn't be using any sort of normal crypto that you'd normally run across. So yes, go ahead and use it. You're fine. Your government's may not be fine, so they should probably be using something different, but you'll be just okay.
All right. Out of Rame's shadow and eye shot. Who believes that this team, ooh, I'm getting dizzy, over there, won the speed debate? And this team over here? Who feels like giving some mercy to this team over here? Apparently nobody. All right, highly scientific audio counter, yes.
So you folks don't trust NIST but didn't believe us? Remember, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
All right, next topic. And in this one, let's see, round 4, you are arguing negative, you are arguing positive. Yes, yes. Okay, a little background. So we're in a DevOps world, right? This is the brave new world we live in. And the prior to DevOps world, where Jim apparently lives, there's this thing of a developer and there's this thing of a system administrator. Well, in the new DevOps world, titles like developer and system administrator need to change, and we all just need to be engineers, right? Because truly in DevOps, if you're doing DevOps right, you are just an engineer. You may be writing code, you may be pushing code, you may be changing server settings, it doesn't matter. We're all just engineers. So, team, yes, you agree with the fact that everyone should just be engineers. You believe there should be developers and sysadmins. And positive team goes first. That's you guys.
All right. Yeah, yeah. Pipe down, Mr. Manico.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
All right, so once upon a time in the Pleistocene age, there were actual real system administrators who understood the entire stack of the systems that they were responsible for. Yes, they wrote code. They troubleshooted things that even the developers who wrote the software didn't understand. They took care of the network. They took care of everything. And then as time went by, people became more and more specialized, usually horizontally. So you have Exchange administrators who know absolutely nothing about the Windows operating system. You have developers and you have people who only specialize in a very small piece of something. And if you try getting all of these people together to troubleshoot 7 layers of a stack to figure out what's going on, you know how hard it's become these days. So I personally am absolutely in favor of DevOps bringing everybody back to the same stack, resetting to 0, and having everybody responsible for the same thing together. I think it can only get better. As long as you can spell engineer.
Yes. Your turn, your turn.
Is DevOps important? Sure it is. Are there a lot of benefits to DevOps? Of course they are. Should you be applying the DevOps to every single piece of software that you're building? Absolutely not. For example, I'm going to take a case study of Etsy, probably one of the leaders in terms of real-world DevOps. So they do DevOps on their website. They do not do DevOps on their credit card storage infrastructure. They have traditional administrators, they have traditional developers, and do more of a waterfall process because of the sensitivity of the application. I am not dissing DevOps. It is actually a pretty outstanding thing, James. But if you apply that tool to every single situation, you're going to screw yourself over big time. We need to apply the proper process, the proper methodology, and the proper tool to the proper situation, and DevOps is not always the right tool. It often is, but not always. And so there are cases where you still need traditional administrators and traditional developers. Just like certain situations, just engineers are all you need. It depends on the situation. Thank you very much.
I don't want to see him in a dress. I'm sorry.
I wear hula skirts back at home, and I am proud of it.
Don't ask, don't tell. Wendy, if you would like to rebut.
Am I tired of Jim's rhetorical questions? Yes, I am.
I'd also like to remind Jim.
Wendy,
the question actually was, should people have the same titles or not? So I'm not sure where you went, but I'm not sure you even answered that
I
question.
said that in some cases you need engineers and developers. In some cases, just the title engineer is good enough. That's what I said. HD.
But what do you call them?
Well,
That's the only thing we're talking about.
Developers, administrators in some cases, and just engineers in others.
So another statement in support of having everyone have the same title. In every operation, every business, someone is stuck holding the poo stick. Someone has to scrub the toilet. In this case, we usually call them QA, or depending on your organization, they could be your security guy, they could be your sysadmin who is running 400 servers and doesn't have any tools for it. Whoever's being stuck with basically the least fun job given his resources that are available. It's nice about giving everyone the same titles. You actually get them in the same room. You treat them the same. So the poor schlub over there scrubbing your toilets doesn't feel like he's being singled out for being so far behind the rest of the organization for his particular role. So I do feel like, as Wendy stated, giving them the same title, giving them the same kind of a platform really helps people work better together. It doesn't result in these different schisms, different layers. You don't have these devs versus ops wars, these ops versus sysadmin wars. It's harder to point the finger when you're pointing it back at yourself.
Ooh, nicely done.
Rebuttal,
please.
so HD, as much as I respect you, man, I'm sorry I have to disagree with you on this one. So I think the clarification that needs to be made to our erudite team over there is it's not just about the titles that people hold, but it's about the roles that they play behind those titles. It's like when you go down to, if you're flying in an airplane, if I'm going to call the flight attendant the pilot and the pilot the flight attendant and call them the same thing, then in that case, and if they don't know what their roles are necessarily to be, then I don't think, we're going to land very safely. And I wonder that's probably one of the reasons why they call these endpoints terminals. All right? So if you don't have that correct distinction, then your software or your systems, whatever you develop with whatever technology, with whatever process you have, is going to be terminated. And I will be back.
Nicely done. All right, it's time for the highly scientific voting method once again. Who believes that this team won this debate round? Who believes that team won the debate round? Do we have a judgment? Team. The first team, so it's this team. First team. So it is now 2-2. Yes, tied up 2-2. All right. A little background before we get into this. Oh, and I should actually mention for this question, you are in the positive and you guys are in the negative. Because I need paper because my brain won't cache anymore. Okay, so back up a little bit. We're in a software as a service world, right? You let software as a service do you, if you're Gmail, they handle all your mail, and if you, everything else probably that comes over email because email's secure, quote, quote.
What was that?
Yeah, that's not part of the thing. That's me being sarcastic. Sorry, I couldn't help. Anyway, in a software as a service world, we have a lot of trust. And one of the things that a software as a service provider could offer as an option is transparent encryption. So they would hold your key and encrypt your data before they wrote to disk. Okay, that is what I mean when I say transparent encryption. Okay, like I just send you data and it magically gets encrypted. Okay, so transparent encryption by a software as a service vendor has value.
And we do not agree with this.
You do not agree with this. You agree with this. Oh, hey. Going up.
And H.D. Moore's just leaving.
All right, here goes the positive.
I'm going to ask a question. How many of you have found situations where you have internally managed the key and you've resorted to the development teams to be able to handle that key configuration and all of that stuff, and that software has been exploited? Right? It's found in the code, it's found in some configuration file, it's in clear text, so we're relying on our own self to be able to manage that key. Damn, I'm saying something that I don't believe in. Right?
Yes, this time.
All right, so let's face it. Most people are not good at key management, especially enterprises. And key management is not easy. It's been like the year of PKI for 20 years now? So absolutely, part of the value is going to be in SaaS providers who understand how to use it and manage it properly. And let's face it, for the people in the enterprise, it's just better out of their hands.
Well, it's also about threat modeling, right? Every DevOps team, and they should know this, and I'm worried that the other side doesn't know this, should be faced on one major challenge. How many of you know about the great maple syrup heist of 2013? This is the thing. It turns out that there are strange cartels that will come in and with a semi and steal your servers en masse, right? And at that point, you don't need massive, awesome PKI systems and HSM. You don't need all of this. What you need instead is one guy who remembered to use the encryption key, We should all be defending against the Mexican cartel with a semi model. And this is the easiest way to do that, right? We don't need your expensive PKI. We don't need your highfalutin security. What we need is a guy with a card that says, I encrypt it this way, and that'll pretty much solve the problem.
Okay, that was horribly awful and not correct at all. But here's Jim.
So what is the whole purpose of asymmetric cryptography? What are some of the cryptographic benefits that are gained when these are used by an individual? One of them is non-repudiation. And when you give those keys up and the provider is then in charge of managing those keys, when legal situations come up, that non-repudiation goes away. Let's look at, I don't want to talk about the negative. We know plenty of examples of providers who manage the keys for their cryptography for you. Let's look at an example of ones that don't. Look at Twitter. Twitter rolled out probably one of the best multi-factor authentication mechanisms in the world, because the whole requirement of it was that even if their servers are compromised, their multi-factor system is not. So your mobile device generates and stores the key, and they never have even a clue what it is. And we can read other articles to describe more details of it, but the key is held by us as the individuals, not by the organization, and it's still a very effective mechanism for authentication. So it is possible for individual end users to manage their own keys. When a provider does it for you, at the very least, you lose non-repudiation, if not much, much worse. It makes it that much easier for abuse, which is something we need to avoid in this day and age.
I'll take the rebuttal of the rebuttal.
You got the rebuttal? Okay.
Right,
Go
so-
further your rebuttal.
So maintaining the key, talking about, like they say, we need to keep the key. That doesn't work if you tweet that key out. Like if taking, for example, Twitter.
Twitter's new multi-factor system, where the private key that drives the heart of it is stored on the device, and then the push notification comes back to approve of that request. They do not store the keys. It's individually stored, so even if Twitter servers are compromised, the authentication mechanism is not. It's possible. It's one small example of a large SaaS provider where the keys are managed by the individual users and not by the organization.
Thank you, Jim.
I am happy to help inform you, sir.
You work for Twitter? Why that?
No, but I read the news.
I don't. I'm from India.
Is that it for your rebuttal, or do we have more? Well, then the rebuttal of the rebuttal. Oh no, do we have a rebuttal? No, okay, we're good. The horse is dead. Don't kick it. Let's go.
Are you going to say anything at this point, Wendy? Are you
Please,
going
go
to
right
concede
ahead.
this point? All right. So let me count the ways in which that is a bad idea. SQL injection, bad idea. You're bypassing all the crypto. It doesn't really freaking matter. Cross-site request forgery, cross-site scripting, where I can grab the data out or cause conflict on the system or do whatever I want. Command injection, I just pull it straight out of the system. If I'm an administrator, a DBA, I have access to the keys and I have access to the data. Like in every possible attack scenario that you'd actually want to get the data out, you'll get the data out. Because the keys are stored right there. I've actually walked into a number of companies where it's like the key is like literally part of the data. Once you have SQL injection, you have literally both things in the same request even. Yes, they're encrypting it, but it doesn't freaking matter because you have all the things you need to get the data out. And this is very pervasive. It is a terrible, terrible idea. You should have complete isolation of the key and the data. Those things should not even be close to one another, if at all possible, not even on the same network. But you can also agree with these people if you feel like it.
Can we take our rebuttal now, actually?
Go for it. Like I said, the rules that were at the start, and they get much more flexible as beer and time goes on.
Here. So the question wasn't, is it the be-all and end-all, right? It was, does it have some value? And so storing the key in volatile memory, right? So again, it does actually protect against an actual threat, right? I mean, people walking into data centers and starting to take stuff.
Give me one actual threat.
That's an actual threat.
Which one?
Right? Which one? The people stealing a bunch of your servers. This is actually a threat.
There's nothing called cold boot, and I can't get the data out.
Again, it's not about whether it provides a defense against all possible attacks. That wasn't what the question was. Does it provide
It doesn't
some
protect against
value?
that attack.
It doesn't protect against. Yeah, as I said 2 hours ago, if people start dumping liquid nitrogen on everything in sight, we, the hackers, win. right? So that cold boot doesn't happen that often outside a lab because liquid nitrogen is expensive and people's
Sure,
hands
the
are
mob can't
expensive
get liquid
more
nitrogen.
than that.
That would be
So,
impossible.
like, we don't have to defend it against every possible attack. We can defend against the great maple syrup attack.
Or well
we can
against
defend
any,
against,
I guess.
data at rest is going to be compromised, and you can't compromise it if it's encrypted and you store it in volatile memory. So we win because, yes, something is better than nothing. Shocking.
If the question wasn't provide any value in the terms of like above zero, that's probably true. But it also adds a lot of negative if you're going to treat it that way.
All right, I think it's voting time. I'm not going to bother to even like get behind Jarrett Rame on this one. Who believes this team won that round? And that team? Well, thank you for your mercy of
Please
voting.
submit your servers to me so I can hack them and I'll show you why that's not actually true.
Yes, please
That's
provide.
right. Store your key with the ciphertext. You go. You go with that.
On your way out, there is a special drawing. Please put your IP address down, and we'll email it to Robert Hansen. All right, last and final question. Internal auth and identity models, the traditional AD, centralized, LDAP, whatever, right, are no longer valid in the world of cloud. That is the position statement. In this case, the FAR team is the negative, and you are the positive. It no longer valid, so it is not valid. So AD and internal identity, you are positive that it does not work. You do not believe it works, they believe it works. Hey man, whatever. You believe that Active Directory and those traditional, like all my company data be an LDAP does not work in cloud. Does not work in cloud. You agree that it does not? I can submit you negative and say you agree it does.
So do we like AD or do we not like AD? We do not like AD. All right, I will stay here then.
And go.
Robert, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you have a moment? Have you ever had a chance to audit an Active Directory setup? Did you have any trouble actually popping it?
What do you mean trouble? I mean, it took me like 10 minutes. If that's trouble.
I mean, would you tell us about the security of AD?
There's not a whole lot of it. I mean, it's usually pretty shitty Windows credential stuff. Like, there's nothing really. There's none, almost none, ever.
But does Windows have a security history with problems in general? Or?
I mean, only since Tuesday.
So these technologies that you're asking us to consider for the cloud are already technologies that have such major historical problems, and now you're asking us to use those in the cloud at a scale that normal organizations don't even have to deal with. It's just a nonsensical thing to debate. These are technologies that had limited viability in the real world anyways, and now you want to push them to cloud where you have to scale at a level that these technologies can't even begin to scale? You want to use LDAP in a world where you're handling millions of concurrent users? Good luck with that. You want to handle AD for tens, if not hundreds of million users for an active service? Good luck with that. These technologies had problems in the first place. You even tried to use them at scale. They fall apart in many ways. They're dead. Leave them dead. And let's move on to something better. Thank you very much.
This public service announcement brought to you by Jim Manico. Please, the negative case.
Okay. Jim, I'm here to teach you a new word. It's called federation.
Because that's worked great.
That's a great marketing term from these different providers, no doubt about it.
Federation. No single AD directory has to do everything by itself, and in fact, in the enterprise, it generally doesn't. Having said that, I have plenty of clients who are using AD on massive scales, and it works just fine. Don't get scared by this whole cloud thing. Oh my God, cloud, we don't know what's happening in it. The fact of the matter is, people are using cloud, people are using hybrid environments, people are still in the enterprise, and it's all working just fine. Now, in cases where you have different layers of governance, you do have to do multiple overlapping circles, and this is where federation comes in. But there's absolutely nothing. AD is not going to die. It is never going to die. So it absolutely has value, and it's working today, and it's scaling today.
So your clients are using these technologies. This from the lady who told us just a few minutes ago that the whole analyst industry is useless and nonsensical. I want to put that out there first of all.
Hey, you were on this side at that time, by the way.
I am not on
Just
your
so you-
side.
you
I
just
am
put him
over here now. I am over here now.
And I don't think the issue is really about whether AD is by itself a technology that's secure or not secure. It's about how you actually implement AD within the different environments that you're going to be in. In today's world, right, whether actually we talk about AD, but realistically today everything has come down to a single sign-on. Whether you go to you open an app on your thing and then you can use your Facebook or your Twitter, APIs to be able to log into multiple services. It's not just AD as in traditional Active Directory stuff. Now, let me ask you a question, Jim. At White Hat, internally, how do you guys manage your active accounts?
I am actually a responsible person who honors my NDA, and I'm not going to talk about that. But if you want to ignore your own NDA and talk about the inner workings of your company or employer or clients, that's your business, buddy.
Yeah, I have an NDA to myself. So.
Oh, security by obscurity works really well, Jim.
I have a contract, and I'm going to honor it because I'm a man of integrity. Unlike the lady in the middle there.
Oh.
Let's just go ahead and assume that instead of having an Active Directory server that you could actually log into, they require you to actually be physically present in the office between 9 and 5, and then their website goes down. So since he won't say anything, let's just assume you have the worst authentication ever, right? And so again, we don't have to defend Microsoft products. The question is, does identity work? And should we have repositories of some sort of identity? Well, yeah. We should have federated identity. I mean, OpenID is actually used, even though it's kind of the whipping boy of the
Does it use LDAP?
What? No, but we don't have to defend LDAP. It
Wasn't
uses
that
LDAP
the
on
question?
the back end.
Actually, you're going to make me pull the question out of my pocket.
Yeah, LDAP is just an example.
Was it an example, or was that specific technology?
Internal auth identity models, aka like AD and other traditional LDAP solutions, are
Internal.
no
So we're
longer
talking about
valid.
using it in the cloud.
Yes.
All right.
So what would normally work in your traditional company before cloud that held your identity does not work now that you have.
So I'm glad that you all think that we should be using LDAP and AD in the cloud, and good luck supporting your 500 users. But with those of us who have to support 1 million users, we're going to use something different, and that's just the reality of
No,
how the world
again,
works
I
today.
think the point was it's like AKA LDAP as an example is what he stated. So it's not necessarily LDAP. Even LDAP, like AD has AD Federation services that you could use in the ADFS. So it's not necessarily that the technology itself that is what we're debating about.
I am sure that
it's about
the
how identity
Facebooks,
is managed.
the Twitters, and the Salesforce of the world who deal with millions of concurrent customers, I'm sure they're racing to use AD for those customers. It just doesn't work that way. These technologies don't scale for cloud level needs. They just don't. They use something else. So if you want to use AD for your 100 or 500 customers, you go for it. But it's not going to work at true scale. Even the Federation version of AD has its limits.
Again, Jim, I hate to bring this back to you. It's not AD that we're talking about really. So it is an example that he stated.
That was actually part of the question.
But again, I'm from a
We're not
country
debating
that
the
has
question.
English as a third language. So I'm probably not understanding the question here, but yes.
Woo. Okay, it's time for voting. We've had enough of this. Voting and more beer. All right, who believes, I'm not even going to bother with this hiding business. Who believes this side of the room won that debate? Well, who believes
Thank you for
this
your
side of the
support,
room
sir.
thought that? I believe we have a somewhat clear winner. Thank you very much for your attendance at the wonderful and exciting speed debates. Come back next
Am
year.
I
We'll do it
pro
again.
that or against that?
Well, that depends. Wait till we ask you next year, and we'll find out. Everybody, big round of applause
Thank you,
for our
everybody.
debater, who had the lovely, lovely situation of arguing against their current position in some cases.